Thank you, Marco. And before we turn to your question about Bangladesh and then to questions from the audience, wanted to note one thing. And they can pull up that media. We invited the European External Action Service, EAS, to participate, and they were unable to, but Gus Hutwain, if I pronounced that right, from the agency, sent his regards, and he noted two reports of relevance published by the European Commission related to the general system of preferences. The one devoted to the Philippines is quite extensive in its analysis of the human rights issues and a number of other areas. Marco brought up the death penalty and how extrajudicial killings are an even different problem than that. But in the European law, I believe, certainly policy, the death penalty as a matter of statute has a consequence. So if we have anyone in the Philippines, from the Philippines, listening on the live stream, we might. People need to realize that if the House and Senate of the Philippines do enact the death penalty under law, it's likely that it may change the trade relationship of the Philippines with Europe in ways that are adverse for the Philippines. No one in any part of this that I've spoken to is anxious for that to happen, but if the death penalty gets enacted, things will probably move in that direction.
It's not, sorry to interrupt, it's not only the death penalty. Bilateral agreements between the European Union and so-called third countries have the human rights clause. So any type of violation of human rights, the death penalty is the biggest and last one of a long chain of persecution, discrimination, however you want to call it. But in theory, conditionality is one of the principles enshrined in bilateral organizations. So once again, it's up to us if governments don't take action, or the European Commission doesn't take action. Parliament has been very vocal on these issues, also on the Philippines, with the resolutions or paragraphs about the Philippines, but also elsewhere where human rights have been violated for the sake of the policy decisions, not necessarily sacrificed on the altar of the war on drugs, but certainly human rights in general are one of the conditions for which money can be stopped, and also recently has been stopped for those reasons. So there are precedents that should be used without necessarily calling the death penalty into question.
So we have, I think, 6 minutes before we are supposed to stop, and there is a important event in here at 9. So do we have any questions from the audience at this point?
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Zaved. I'm from the United Nations Human Rights Office in Geneva, and I'm Human Rights and Drug Policy Advisor at the UN High Commissioner Office. And thanks for the presentation, and also thanks to two colleagues from abroad joining us by Skype, particularly Mr. Chito. I really need to hear you. And just my questions is that also with regard to Philippine situation, that in different human rights committee recently has addressed this issue, particularly asking to addressing that impunity is concerned. At the national level, the judiciary, what is the state of the judiciary? Do you think that whether there are any possibility that Philippine judiciary can take also or taking any action? And you have been involved with the Human Rights Commission for a long time, and we know that Human Rights Commission has been investigating. But one of the concerns, we know the protection of the victims and witnesses, and what measures has been taken with regard to that.
There was one question about Bangladesh. If you want, I can try to answer to that.
Please, and then the other one. Thank you.
Okay. So the national judicial system is not useful at all for these type of crimes, like crimes committed by the law enforcement agencies. I can give you one example. That for extrajudicial execution of one man, a senior judicial magistrate ordered the perpetrator of the rapid action battalion of the country, the officers to be detained in prison. And then instantly the judge was withdrawn by the chief judicial magistrate, and the reason was given that for the sake of people, the judge was being withdrawn. And then the perpetrators were released immediately. So there are a few other examples that if a judge orders any investigation into the extrajudicial executions or human rights violation crimes, then immediately those judges were transferred, and the transfers were like punishment transfer. So the kind of places that they will be sent to, most people would not like to go to work there. Very difficult jurisdictions. So that's how the authorities themselves, they discourage and they intervene into the judicial independence and which doesn't exist. This week, it's not related to extrajudicial execution, but ruling party politician had a case for corruption. So a judge ordered that the leader should be detained, and then immediately the judge was withdrawn and transferred to another place, and a different judge ordered the politician to be released. So this ruling party and the government institutions like law enforcement agencies, they remain above the law in the country. So the national judicial criminal justice institutions simply do not function in these cases. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Who wants to take on the Filipino question? Yeah.
Sir, I think can you quickly repeat the Philippines question, maybe?
My question was twofold. Two questions I have. One is what is the state of the national judiciary to investigate or prosecute all the violation which has been happening in Philippines, whether there was any initiative by the judiciary over there. And the second is the concern that protection of witnesses and victims. What measures has been taken inside the country, or what support you require from outside on particular that issue?
Well, I won't be able to give anywhere near a complete answer, and there are portions of this where I'm uncertain. I can say a couple of things. There's a functioning Commission on Human Rights. There are other institutions in the Philippines that are concerned with human rights, including the Catholic Church. We hear it comes up in the news, and we hear privately of people being protected. For example, there were two whistleblowers, former members of Duterte's Davao Death Squad, when he was mayor of that city. One of them in leadership role, and who came out publicly, one of them in a Senate hearing, chaired by Senator De Lima not long before she was jailed, and they are hidden somewhere. It's hard after approaching 4 years to expect the judiciary to solve this, unless maybe the balance of power gets tilted, and maybe they will. The Supreme Court did order the government to release information that they didn't want to. I'm not sure what the status of that is. So Is there any extremely quick question or comment from the audience at this point? Okay, thank you for joining us. And I'll mention again, there are a few copies of our sign-in sheet that are circulating. If you haven't already signed in and you're willing, please find one before you leave, and we will be back in touch with you with continuing information on this issue. Thanks again for coming out so early this morning, and thanks to all of our speakers and our volunteers.